It's great to have Ian Castleberry with us, ready to talk some NFL gold nuggets. And formerly, he wrote for Bleacher Report, for Yahoo Sports. He's currently writing for thecomeback.com, also awfulannouncing.com. Like both on Facebook, by the way. And, of course, does the radio show here with us. And it's always great to have Ian, presented by D.C. Creasman and D.C. Creasman Jewelers. Hey, Ian, how you doing, lad?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Hey, we're fantastic. Mike's out today, so we don't have a Bills question today. I hope that's okay.
Sorry for letting you down there, Ian.
No, it's all right, Charlie. I mean, if you want, we can try.
We'll give it a break for 1 week. Gore's going to be back and ready to go for sure. But let's start first, if we can, Ian, just for a moment. You're also our baseball guy. You do a lot of writing for baseball. Yankees pitcher Gerrit Cole, tell us why he seems to be pinpointed as a cheater. Is this going back to the topic we were talking about just on Monday?
Yeah, Gerrit Cole has been flagged as one of the pitchers who's benefiting most, possibly, allegedly, from use of foreign substances and sticky stuff like Spider Tack and Pelican glue. And it's really because if you look at his numbers, once he was traded from the Pittsburgh Pirates to the Houston Astros, his numbers, I mean, he was good for the Pirates, but once he went to the Astros, his spin rate increased significantly. His strikeouts went way up. In 2018, he had 276 strikeouts on the season. 2019, he had 326 strikeouts. ERAs under 3 both times. Going to a better team, of course, a better front office, a better coaching staff, probably had something to do with it. But a lot of people in baseball, Josh Donaldson, for instance, seem to think that he adopted these stickier substances to increase his spin rate. And Gerrit Cole did not make things easier on himself. The other day, he was asked flat out, do you use Spider Tack? And that's pretty much a yes or no question. But Gerrit Cole right away went on a filibuster that I think every politician would have been proud to manufacture. I mean, he starts off with saying, I don't quite know how to answer that.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're talking about a yes or no answer here. And then he starts talking about there have been customs and practices that have been passed down from older players to younger players. And he just goes on and on, talking, again, instead of just saying, yeah, I use Spider Tack, it helps me get a grip on the ball. So it just raises suspicions. But if you're in Gerrit Cole's position, not to defend him, because I think that answer or lack of answer was absurd, but, he doesn't want to get himself in trouble, and baseball hasn't really – they're starting to check for these substances, but they're not really cracking down on them. So it's in his best interest and other pitchers like him to just be quiet about these substances until baseball really starts to put any sort of penalty with some teeth to it.
Ian, I was glad I had heard you talk about Spider Tack before, because when they asked him, have you ever used Spider Tack? And he starts him whining, and I really thought he was going to say, I refuse to answer that on the grounds of the Fifth Amendment, that I do not want to self-incriminate.
Yeah. He should have gone the George Costanza route. Yeah. Should I not have done that? Yeah. Is that wrong? I shouldn't be using Spider Tack on my baseballs?
Would have said,
if I had known that, if that was brought to my attention, I never would have done that. Wow. Keep following this developing story for sure. Well, we just want to get into that real quick, but now we'll get into the NFL. And Ian, Jim Fassel, whose Giants team lost in the Super Bowl to the Ravens back in 2000. He's passed away at the age of 71. He was actually he went into the hospital with chest issues, chest pains, and apparently during a procedure, his heart gave out. He had a heart attack, and he passed, and this was unexpected. Fassel was quite respected by his players, Ian, and that's not always the case in the NFL.
Yeah, very sad story, but as you said, Fassel really was admired and liked by his players. Michael Strahan and Jesse Armstead with the New York Giants, I think partially because Fassel realized that his players needed to be leaders and the defense was the strength of the team, and he wanted to make sure those guys had a voice. But even players he coached in college, like Scott Mitchell, John Elway, spoke highly of Jim Fassel. And I think the perception of him was he was a really nice guy, especially for a football coach. I think it was Bill Pennington of the New York Times who called him the NFL coaching equivalent of Mr. Rogers. But he was you can't not be at least somewhat of a hard edge to be a successful football coach. And I think one thing that's strange about Jim Fassel is how he never got another NFL head coaching job after his tenure with the Giants. He coached in, I think not the USFL, but there was another football league that I think he was a head coach of. And I had forgotten this until looking it up earlier today. He was on the verge of being the Washington football team's head coach. And then Joe Gibbs decided he wanted to come out of retirement and be the coach.
Oh, I did not know that.
Dan Snyder said, "Oh, yeah, well, we'll take Joe Gibbs." Thanks, Jim.
That's the shiny ball right there.
But, he was, he had 3 10-win seasons with the Giants. They went to the Super Bowl in 2000, lost to the Baltimore Ravens, but a successful run, especially post Bill Parcells. Yeah. I think he did a very good job. He was overshadowed by Bill Parcells, not just with his Giants tenure, but also Parcells began coaching the New York Jets at the time. But yeah, I think it's very curious that Fassel did not get another opportunity.
Yeah, that'll be a question for sure, right? It's like why that didn't happen, Coach, and maybe Fassel, after the Redskins thing, maybe decided, you know what, maybe I'm just best being an assistant coach. But it's hard to do that, right? Once you get the taste of being a head coach, you kind of want to stay at that level. But Fassel never really did. Ian, we'll move on because we need to talk Aaron Rodgers. Pardon me, I didn't mean to get you mixed up with the all-pro quarterback there, although I'm sure you don't mind.
You had an MVP season last year too, Ian.
Oh, absolutely. But
thank you. Still waiting on my Hawaii trip. But,
yeah. Well, let's get you a fiance first, then we'll make that happen. If we'll go on the Aaron Rodgers route there. But it looks like Aaron's teammates have his back as A-Rod was a no-show at the Packers' mandatory OTA, Ian?
Yeah, I think his Packers teammates, they realize this is a business, and we're talking about June. This isn't August, training camp going before the season. They might be singing a little bit of a different tune then, but it does make you wonder if Rodgers' teammates agree with a lot of his opinions of the Packers front office. Certainly they don't want to badmouth their quarterback, who, the Packers are not going to have a successful season in all likelihood if Rodgers is not their quarterback. And I think also they want to help Jordan Love. I mean, if Jordan Love does end up being the Packers quarterback, and most of us think he won't, and he has struggled in that regard, but he needs his teammates' support. So if they go out there and talk about how much it stinks Rodgers isn't there, or be mad at him, that puts more attention and scrutiny on Jordan Love. So I think this is also a way of protecting a young quarterback who I think needs a little bit of a hand right now.
Yeah, that attitude may change, Charlie, once they start, catching balls from Jordan Love and going, something's really different here. Yeah. There's a different feeling.
Jordan Love needs all the reps he can get, and you just hope that he's not going to end up being the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. I know that'll make my share of stock be less valuable, but he might be. So, let's give him as many reps as we can. And right, Ian, I think you're exactly right. Right now, doesn't really matter. August, that changes.
We'll circle back around to that for sure. Ian Castleberry playing with the Wise Guys. It is our NFL Gold Nuggets feature. Ian joining us on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines, and thanks to David and his staff for bringing us our NFL Gold Nuggets feature. So, Ian, tell us why the 49ers are canceling the remainder of their preseason, basically their off-season workouts.
Yeah, the 49ers, they suffered 2 serious injuries to their offensive linemen, 2 season-ending injuries to Justin School and Tavarius Moore. One, School suffered a torn ACL. Moore suffered a torn Achilles. I think just in a 3-play span, they lost 2 of their offensive linemen there. So I think there was some thought that, people are getting hurt here. Maybe we should ease off the gas here. Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers head coach, says the cancellation was planned before the injuries, but so I don't know if that was the case. They were just going to ease up, and Shanahan was happy just to have the players in minicamp and doing well. But it sure sounds like maybe Shanahan and general manager John Lynch were kind of maybe going to reevaluate how they run their mini camps and leading up to training camp if guys are getting hurt like that. But I'd be curious what Charlie thinks real quick. I mean, you can have practice and you can stay in shape, but how important is it to be in football shape and to run plays and to hit each other?
Well, the timing part is the bigger thing, and but nothing's worth losing 2 offensive linemen in an OTA. Holy cow. I mean, that's a devastating kind of thing.
Yeah, and by the way, you're not buying no, we were planning this all along, Charlie.
No, not at all.
Your expression said everything.
Yeah.
It's radio, so I'm bringing it to the people, but Charlie's just like, All right, we'll see maybe if other teams take a peek at this as well, as Ian Castleberry joins the Wise Guys. All right, Ian, so Deshaun Watson wants to be a Bronco. Wasn't Denver one of the places that Aaron Rodgers may end up? I mean, now suddenly the Broncos are now like quarterback you. But let's get into this. What is the appeal of Denver for Watson? And this is Watson's former teammate, again, making this statement.
Yeah, Kareem Jackson saying on Aqib Talib's podcast that Deshaun Watson told him that he wants to play for the Broncos. Tell the front office, I want to play there. Let's make this happen. It could be that the Broncos are pretty deep at receiver. They're young, but Jerry Jeudy, Hamler, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant at tight end. That's a really impressive receiving corps, certainly better than what he had in Houston, maybe with other teams as well. Melvin Gordon also there at running back. Maybe he thinks he would have more control, running the offense for a defensive head coach like Vic Fangio. Maybe he thinks he looks good in orange after playing at Clemson. Maybe there's something else about Colorado that might be preferable to a professional athlete. I can't think of what that might be.
I can. Weed. Legalize weed. Yes.
We could certainly speculate, but if you're Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, are you thinking, like, what am I going to do to get this guy off my back?
Man.
He almost goes to Carolina. Bridgewater has to deal with rumors there. Now he's in Denver, and Deshaun Watson pops up again.
Yeah. By the way, depending on how his legal situation goes, Watson could be wearing orange, and it's not going to be with the Denver Broncos. So that's still ongoing. We'll see where that one plays out. But, Charlie, there are a couple of things here. First off, can Denver afford Deshaun Watson? And second of all, how's the fan base going to react to that? They're a passionate fan base, and they may go, yeah, man, we don't care what this guy's going through right now. We want to win. Or they may not feel that way. This is going to be interesting if this does have legs and it gets to a certain point, what the fan base is going to think about this.
You're right, Pat. It will be interesting to see what the fans, how they react to this. And the other thing is, I'm not sure what his value is after all of this. I mean, certainly it wouldn't be what it was before all this stuff happened. So what do you have to get for Deshaun Watson? Yeah. I'm not sure.
That's a really good point. So, I mean, how much do you have to give up? And again, on top of that, can you afford him? He signed that new contract. He's making a boatload of money, $35-40 million, right around there. Can Denver afford that? Yeah, you're right. Ian. Poor Teddy Bridgewater. I forgot that's right. He's out there. He's just going, man, what do I need to do to buy a break here for crying out? But don't cry for Teddy. He made a cool $20 million last year. He's going to be just fine. As Ian Castleberry playing with the Wise Guys, finally, Ian, Jared Goff says he feels empowered by Lions coaches. All right. This sounds like the beginning of a love affair. But, Ian, as a long-suffering Lions fan, does this bring you any comfort?
I'd sure rather have Matthew Stafford at quarterback, but it needs to work with Jared Goff, at least, I think, for the next 2 years. That's when his contract, the Lions are kind of stuck with it for 2 years, and then they can move on from a salary cap standpoint after that. But they need Goff to buy in. The Lions are not going to be good next year, and they need Goff to be a leader and to buy in. That this is doing well. And, from Jared Goff's standpoint, maybe it feels good or it's a refreshing change to be playing for a coaching staff that wants some input from him and letting him take some control over Sean McVay with the LA Rams. You imagine Sean McVay, I mean, he's a brilliant offensive mind, a good coach, but you wonder if he's like a serious control freak when it comes to his offense and his quarterbacks, and maybe Goff likes a little bit more of a hands-off approach with Dan Campbell, the head coach, and Anthony Lynn, their offensive coordinator.
This is quite a story to follow. I mean, obviously, Goff in Detroit's going to be something we'll be watching as the season gets underway. How much will be, and for how long it remains to be seen at this point. But I know, Ian, when Dan Campbell was hired as head coach, and he looks more like he's starring in a movie with Stone Cold Steve Austin than being a football coach. He's a pretty intense dude. Are you getting kind of a little more comfortable with him at that position?
I like him. I like the personality. I know some people think he's already showing he's a little bit of a clown. I don't know if you guys caught this last week.
Do tell.
He's the Grand Marshal of the Detroit Grand Prix, and he came out for his press conference wearing a helmet, for auto racing. And some people think, he's a little bit of a clown. Show what kind of football coach he can be. I think he, especially after 2 years of Matt Patricia, I think this is a welcome change.
He'll take the clown.
Personality. Yeah, I'll take the clown. If he's losing a lot of games 3 years from now, I guess we'll reevaluate. But I'll take this approach from Dan Campbell, definitely.
All right, excellent. Well, great topics, and thanks for digging into a little baseball for us today, Ian.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey, buddy. Always appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of the day, the week as well.
Okay, take care, guys.
All right.
You got it, Ian. Bye-bye.